let me ask for everyone, except for Lily and Amaris, who just spoke to it. I want to go all the way around. I want you to riff briefly, we're talking like a phrase or a sentence, on imaginary gardens with real toads in them in relation to what we're trying to do with poetry here in the course and in this week. I'll invite you to say something about what that means. I'll invite you to substitute garden and toads, imaginary X with real Y in it. I'll invite you to think about what it would be like to reverse the terms real gardens with imaginary toads, which is what most people think poetry is. I'll invite you to do anything. So we're going to start with Jess, and we're going to go around to the table, skipping Lily. Then we're going to go to the Hangouts and go around and skip Amaris, who just spoke. So Jess, quick thought. What's it make you think of? And no pressure, because this is an essay we're going to publish.
Sure, of course. I'm a big fan of Moore. I'm glad that we're having this chance.
Marianne Moore, yeah.
Marianne Moore, to talk about this idea of imaginary gardens with real toads. And to me, this is a sort of version of like exactitude with a difference, this combination of the imaginary and the real.
Sounds like Gertrude Stein.
Exactly. And I think what this means to me is that oftentimes the spaces that we want to live in may not exist yet, and that the space that the poem gives us is not what we live in, but like we live with what the poem gives us.
Oh my God, you're so good. God, that was good. Amber Rose and Jason. How are you going to follow that, Amber Rose?
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
you can just say what was so great about that if you want, but respond to imaginary gardens with real toads in them. What do you want from a poem? What's that real toad for you?
I'm not going to answer that question, but
I
I'm going to
figured
say
you wouldn't.
something
I was
else.
just filling space.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, this conversation is making me think about the words entanglement and perception. And the kind of entanglement that we're constantly negotiating, which is trying to imagine something other than what we're experiencing. But that those things have to remain really interconnected, or else the balance sort of tips and you can be kind of out of your mind. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Thank you. Jason, your thought on imaginary gardens with real toads? You want to do some XY substitutions, imaginary X with real Ys? We've done this before.
How about imaginary poems with real words in them?
I love it. Do another one. I love it when we do this. It's once every couple of years we do this, and it produces fireworks.
Imagination with reality in them.
One more.
Imaginary ModPo with real people in them.
Imaginary Jason with real Jason in it. In him. Either one more or a brief version of the comment you were going to make, because I derailed you.
That's okay. The comment I was going to make was simply to read a little bit more from what follows, because I think that what's at stake here is the word real. Because this in a way ties together, I think, all that we've been talking about, that reality is, as Davy said, relational, and that she more continues to say that if you defy the critics and are interested in the raw material of poetry in all its rawness, that which is, on the other hand, genuine, then you're interested in poetry. And that, I think that raw material is related to the raw material of poetry is imaginary gardens with real toads in them.
Great. Thank you so much. We have someone on the phone, but I want to continue this exercise, so you're limited to one sentence. Davy, imaginary gardens with real toads.
A sentence with two parts, Al. Part one, imaginary gardens with real toads points to what's both universal and situated about perceiving objects. On the one hand, we all have experiences of perception. On the other hand, our situated experience changes how familiar a garden or a toad is to you. Along those lines, gardens and toads, as what we're talking about, opens us up to think about poems as having climatological information of the acts of perceiving and situating and thinking through our environment is what we've been talking about, and which offers us the opportunity to think about poems as ways of perceiving environments as they change. That we might think about a poem as a environmental strategy or as a climatological strategy.
Yeah, you're blowing all the fuses. That's right. Anna, you're next, but let me comment and say, the cult of the imagination, which was what poetry was in the modern period, isn't gonna do much. It's not gonna help if the real toads are dead. Imagination is pretty good, but reality is inside there, and so we're going to wind up having to do imaginary gardens and imaginary toads if we're not fucking careful. Oh my God, what's happening? Anna, quickly, sentence. That was 9 sentences, by the way, but that's okay.
Sorry, Al. My sentence is to go watch the video in ModPo Plus that we did on this poem, because we actually look at all the various revisions of this poem that Marianne Moore made over the years, and we look at her archive, and we're in spaces. Actually, part of the video we recorded is in a reconstruction of her living room.
Right.
So really cool spot to be like on location,
Right.
to be thinking about
A mile from here.
imaginary gardens and real toads.
Great. All right. Max, Gabe, Erica, Dave. Max, Gabe, Erica, Dave. Comment on this in any way. You can go far away from this now. Max first.
I love the substitution exercise. I think we should do it all the time. I'm going to stay to one sentence, so semicolon. I think while imaginary gardens with real toads is a great way of thinking about modernist poetry, if you substitute it so it's imaginary cities with real people, it becomes suddenly very much about postmodernist fiction.
Whoa. Really helpful heuristic there. Fabulous. Gabe, your thought?
Yeah, this will be a sentence. The poets that we're working with this week who believe that poetry is a record of the real, as in it's a medium, and the poets who we will meet later who believe that poetry is the translation of the surreal, like from another world, say Jack Spicer, Ginsberg, and Waldman, who believe it's a medium, as in like the Long Island medium, are actually in perfect agreement.
Whoa, Gabe, this is outrageous. Erica, we are going to transcribe this. Erica?
I am thinking about Gertrude Stein and her portraits, and my contribution is a sentence from her piece, Portraits in Repetition, which is, I kept wondering as I talked and listened all at once. I wondered, is there any way of making what I know come out as I know it, come out not as remembering? I found this very exciting, and I began to make portraits.
Oh, that's fabulous. Dave, your last thought on this, and then we're going to go to the phone.
Just thinking about a substitution. Imaginary gray-green leaves with real bright green broken glass.
That's really cool. Great reference to Lines by Williams, which we don't talk about often enough. I think it's actually quite a subtle poem. Thank you all for engaging me in that weird little exercise.